Buddha Bros, Self-Actualization for Men and Young Men. So before I left for the 10-day meditation retreat, I posted a video to talk about some of my expectations for the retreat, and I just wanted to touch on some of those points that I raised now that I'm back from the 10-day meditation retreat. You can take a look at the video that I posted before I went to the trip. I'll put it in the description below. So one of the things that I talked about is that I wanted to treat this retreat like a vacation. I didn't really have too many expectations. I just wanted to go because I saw a documentary on it and I thought it was an interesting type of meditation and a challenging one at that. So that's, I probably was treating it as an interesting vacation, and it actually lived up to that expectation. Overall, I would say that it was peaceful, but also a lot of hard work. There were moments of relaxation. For example, they had deer roaming around, and it's the first time I've been that close to deer. I'm more of a city guy, but I was, maybe 6 feet from a deer, and these deer, they just kind of did their own thing. They didn't really, they weren't scared of us. I think they were just used to people. So it was really, I'd never seen a deer eat. I saw a deer eat an apple, things like that. So it was, it felt like, I was kind of on vacation. And the other sense in which it was like a vacation, it felt like a very luxurious experience. And let me explain what I mean by that, because, obviously, meditation retreat, you don't really think of it as being luxurious, but what I mean by that is that everything was taken care of for us. We didn't have to, worry about food. We didn't have to worry about anything. All we had to do was, our only responsibility was to meditate, to work on the meditation, and to master whatever that we were given for that particular day. So in that sense, that's very luxurious for me. That's what I kind of define as a luxurious experience. As a luxurious experience is when you don't have to worry about anything. You can just kind of, work on your craft or whatever that may be. And then, the other sense is that, you just kind of was in your own space the whole time pretty much, and just kind of did your own thing and didn't really worry about what anyone else was doing. You just kind of, I would just stand and face the sun with my eyes closed for a long period of time, and, just have the luxury of kind of doing things like that, things that I wouldn't normally do in my day-to-day life. But since I was there, I was able to just do that, just lie down, look up in the sky. Those are things that you don't do too often. So it did feel like a vacation, but don't get me wrong, it was a lot of hard work. It wasn't the type of vacation where you're sitting on the beach and sipping, fucking Mai Tais and shit like that. So it wasn't a vacation in that sense. The other thing I wanted to touch base on is the cult. I talked before about, how it might be a cult and how I don't really care either way. Well, after attending the 10-day course, I can say for sure that Vipassana is not a cult. In fact, it espouses ideas that are very much anti-cult. For example, Goenka, who's the teacher of Vipassana, he speaks strongly against blind devotion, and it's not just him. That's what Vipassana is all about. It's not about reading scriptures and then blindly following those scriptures and being devoted to the teachings. It's Vipassana really wants you to experience the wisdom for yourself. It's very much an experiential. They value experience more than anything, even more than their teachings. They just want you to experience for yourself and have your own experience and let that guide you. Let that bring you the wisdom, rather than them telling you, what to think or what to feel and things like that. So there's a lot more to say about this topic, but it's something that I'm so not interested in. So I'll just let you explore for yourself. I also posted a video briefly describing Vipassana, so you can take a look at that and also decide for yourself whether or not you think Vipassana is a cult. But again, to me, that's something I don't really concern myself over. But for what it's worth, after being at the retreat for 10 days, it is my very strong opinion that it is not a cult whatsoever. So moving on, one of the things I was hoping to get out of this retreat is to have meditation ingrained in my mind, because I was still not consistent with meditation, with my meditation practice. Although I was very dedicated at the retreat, and I think I had the longest sitting of anybody there, of any of the students there, I still can't say that I have ingrained meditation in my mind. I think it probably takes maybe 3 months to do that, but so that I didn't accomplish that, and I don't think that was that was probably kind of wishful thinking on my part, because it's really hard to ingrain a habit in your mind. So that's still something I will continue to work on. One really big thing that I got out of the retreat is that it gave me another perspective about meditation. In the video that I put up before I went on the retreat, I talked about how meditation is about tricking your mind into not thinking by thinking about something that has no meaning, or by focusing on your body. I wasn't incorrect in my thoughts or my perceptions of meditation, how they're designed to trick your mind into thinking about something else to stop the mindless chatter. But Vipassana is not about tricking your mind. Again, I posted a video talking or briefly explaining Vipassana that will shed some light into this. But Vipassana to me feels like a very substantive form of meditation that feels very fundamental. Again, they're all about the truth. They're all about the reality. It's very much against illusion and things like that. So it feels to me like a more fundamental form of meditation, or at least more than the ones that I have encountered. I feel like it goes a lot deeper than other forms of meditation that I've been familiar with. I mean, it is the form of meditation that the Buddha used, so I guess that's not too surprising that it feels very fundamental. In the video that I posted before I went off on the retreat, I spoke about some of the potential challenges. It turns out that those things that I thought would be, or would present challenges was not at all. One of the challenges I spoke about in the other video is the no communication rule, and it turns out that that was not a challenge at all. That was, in fact, I think a lot of people were grateful for that rule, because I think it would have made it very difficult to learn the meditation in that short amount of time if we were allowed to talk to each other. I think, for one, it's distracting, and another big thing is that you don't want other people to influence your experience. I think once you start talking and someone says that they had this experience and then you didn't have that experience, and then you start generating craving, and it becomes very counterproductive to what the meditation is trying to get you to do. And then when you are sitting down meditating, you're thinking about what other people have told you, so it's kind of generating this mindless chatter again that that is distracting to the meditation. So there's a lot of reasons why they have that rule, and after being at the retreat, I really understand why that rule is really necessary. So no talking to others is a rule that I think everyone appreciated. One last note I want to make on this is I was concerned that it would be awkward to not talk to your roommate. But of course, the very clear-headed folks at Vipassana thought of all of these things, and they came up with a clever solution where they divided the room with a closet, with a wall that served as a closet, and then in front of you there's there's this curtain that you can pull, so you can pretty much be in the same room with your roommate and not see him. So that made it very easy to not talk to your roommate. It didn't make it awkward at all. So, and on just a side note, I was really impressed with how everything was planned out and thought out, and the use of space, and just the layout of the days, and how everything is laid out, and everything. I was very impressed with how everything was run. I guess they've been doing this for a long time, and they have it down to science by now. It's pretty much like a McDonald's. I'm sure they're not too thrilled with me comparing Vipassana to a McDonald's, but it really is. I think it has become broken down into like a very much a science, where every single retreat is pretty much laid out in a similar manner, and like the days are kind of they set up the days in a very similar manner and teach it in a very similar way, and it's the same teachings, the same exact teachings that you get at every retreat. So I think that's a very good thing, so that you don't so that everyone's sort of getting the same sort of instructions and the same experience, no matter where you are in the world. So you don't feel like someone in Burma, for example, is getting a better experience than you are. So the not talking to others was something everybody was grateful for. The not talking to yourself, that wasn't too challenging either. I only caught myself barely whispering something to myself a couple of times, but that was it. The no communication device was also something that I think everyone was grateful for, because if we had access to that, I think it would have been very distracting, just going on the internet, going on Facebook, things like that. So I think that would have been, again, very distracting. So I think that was a good rule. And it wasn't like they confiscated your personal devices. It's actually, it's actually not very strict the way they enforce the rules. So if you wanted to, you could keep your communications device. It was just more of like the honor system, or if you felt like, you didn't really want that temptation, then you would let them keep your communications device for the time you're there. So it wasn't like they walked around and confiscated that. So I just wanted to make a note of that. The no writing anything down was somewhat challenging, but it wasn't like I felt compelled to express my thoughts in writing. It was more because I wanted to remember the particulars of the instructions that we were given. And on day 8, I finally made a very conscious and well-considered decision to write down the instructions that I kept trying to remember in my head. I knew that if I didn't write it down, I keep thinking about them and then they would distract me from the meditation. So I thought that since the intent behind the rule is to keep the mind free from distractions, writing down the instructions would be breaking the letter of that rule, but would be maintaining the intent of that rule. And I'm all about intent over letters, so that's why I decided to break that rule. And you know what? Once I wrote down the very long instructions, and on day 8 they were an hour long, my mind stopped thinking about these instructions, and so my mind was no longer distracted by them. What was very challenging was to not have any thoughts the entire time, but I think that's pretty much impossible. And I don't even think the Buddha was capable of not having any thoughts at any time. And also most of my thoughts were centered around Vipassana. I also had many conversations with the assistant instructor, so I did actually talk to another human being. Another thought on the silence is that I realized that not talking for 10 days straight is really not all that special or interesting, and I don't think it makes you any wiser in and of itself. If it weren't for the meditation, I don't think not communicating for 10 days would have brought any insights I wouldn't have gained otherwise. So I before I went on the retreat, I was thinking, the not talking to yourself in and of itself would be kind of an interesting experience, but it turns out it wasn't, all that interesting at all. It was just pretty much the same, except you're just not talking. So so anyway, I think that's pretty much it. That covers a lot of the things that I brought up in the video before I left. I will make more videos about Vipassana, but delve into it a little deeper. This was just more of just covering some of the surface level stuff that I brought up in the video before I left. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Wake up, get your shit together, brother.